in the pool, but the problem is the pool's too hot.
There you go.
Well, if you had a spray park, it'd be okay. You could just adjust the temperature.
Hey, Dave,
Evaporating.
how's
Just
the
a
animals?
hose.
What's that?
How's your animals doing?
Oh, they're puffing. The cows are all got their tongues out and they're puffing. All the fans are working overtime.
Yeah,
Everything. They're all in heat stress.
we're hearing. Well, Fred was hearing that there's some turkey farmers having big problems, and we have some friends who have broilers out in Abbotsford, and they're having some problems.
Well, they're worse because, like Jack Mayor Froze was just saying, the barns don't cool down. They gotta cool down.
No
Okay.
cooling at night.
No cooling at night.
Well, if we get through today, it's supposed to get better. All right. Got another minute. If everyone can put their cameras on. Davis, I just heard you. Councillor Woodward, Councillor Richter. Councillor Richter's here. Councillor Woodward is here. So I think we're all present and accounted for.
Hi, Lori. Haven't seen you for a long time. How you doing? Yeah, good. And Peter Fassbender. There you are. Look at that.
Okay, Ms. Bauer, are we ready to go?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we are.
Great, thank you. So good evening. I'd like to bring the regular meeting of Township of Langley public hearing, a regular meeting for the purpose of public hearing to order for the Township of Langley. And the first thing I need to do is to read the preamble that's on your agenda. A public hearing is a statutory requirement under Section 464 of the Local Government Act and must be held before third reading of a community plan, rural land use bylaw, zoning bylaw, land use contract amendment bylaw, heritage designation bylaw, or heritage revitalization agreement bylaw, which would change the use or density of use of property. During a public hearing, Council acts in a quasi-judicial role for the purpose of allowing persons who believe their interest in property is affected by a bylaw, permit, or other matter to make representations to Council either orally or by written submission, or add comments or elaborate upon correspondence that may have already been presented to Council concerning the bylaws. It is important to note that Council is not in a position to receive any additional information on the bylaws following the public hearing as dictated by case law. The hearing procedure involves an explanation from the Community Development Division on the purpose of the proposed bylaws and to hear from individuals regarding the bylaws. In order to ensure that all interested parties have a reasonable opportunity to be heard, speakers are requested to keep representations as brief and succinct as possible, and no longer than 5 minutes, excluding time required for questions from Council. Speakers will be asked to state their name, neighborhood, and city for the record, and if referring to prepared remarks, to submit copies of these to the Township Clerk. Decorum must be maintained at all times. This includes refraining from applause, booing, or heckling. To assist with large numbers of speakers, individuals must advise the Township Clerk and sign the speakers list prior to the commencement of the public hearing. The names on the speakers list will be read out during the hearing. Individuals who have already addressed Council and wish to add further submissions will wait until the people that have not yet addressed Council have had an opportunity to speak. All submissions and speakers lists are considered part of the public record. Council members should not express their views nor debate the bylaws, but may question speakers to clarify particular points in the submissions. Council may consider third reading or third and final adoption at this meeting or its next regular meeting to be held on Monday, July 12, 2021 in the Fraser River Presentation Theatre, 4th floor, 20338 65 Avenue, Langley, British Columbia. So with that, I would ask for a motion to to adopt and receive the agenda items. Could I have a motion, please? Councilor Arneson, second by Councilor Long. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that carries unanimously. There are no development permits. We move straight to public hearing, of which there are two. And start off with the official community plan amendment and rezoning application number 100217, development permit application number 101107, Paddington Properties, Northeast Gordon Limited. And that's bylaw 5710 and bylaw 5711. Oh, sorry, 5711. So I will turn it over to, I believe, Mr. Richardson is here, or Mr. Seffi.
Thank you, Worship.
Mr. Richardson, thank you.
With your permission, I'll share the screen.
Thank you.
So is it clear, Your Worship?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Excellent. So thank you, Your Worship. The subject Northeast Gordon Neighborhood Plan Amendment, rezoning and development permit applications pertain to a proposed development consisting of 32 residential units at 20617 and 20643 68th Avenue. The overall 2.14 acre site is designated residential and multifamily in the Willoughby Community Plan and attached single family and townhouse A in the Northeast Gordon Neighborhood Plan. This air photo depicts a site located on the northeast corner of 68th Avenue and 206th Street. Proposed Northeast Gordon Plan Amendment Bylaw 5710 proposes to increase the maximum permitted density in the attached single family designation from 10 to 11 units per acre and the townhouse A designation from 22 to 26 units per acre. Rezoning Bylaw 5711 rezones the subject site from suburban residential SR2 to comprehensive development zone 160 to accommodate the proposal. This slide indicates the proposed site plan with vehicular access from 68th Avenue and 206th Street. The next series of slides are renderings, elevations, as well as a landscape plan, as currently indicated in development permit 101107. Staff note that the proponent has actively been pursuing design amendments to respond to council's comments at the June 14th council meeting. Staff recommends support of Northeast Gordon Neighborhood Plan Amendment Bylaw 5710 and rezoning Bylaw 5711, subject to 10 conditions, and council's consideration of development permit 101107, subject to 2 conditions, listed on page 8 of council's agenda. Your Worship, a total of 73 notices were mailed out, 1 written submission had been received, and there are no individuals noted on the speakers list.
All right. Thank you very much for that. So I know it's common for me to go through the 3 times asking for speakers. So I'm going to ask for a first time if there are any speakers or public submissions regarding C1, and for a second time public submissions regarding C1, and for a third time public submissions regarding C1. Seeing none, does the proponent present wish to speak to the written submission?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh yes, okay, thank you.
Yep.
If you could just identify yourself, please. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Pav Seacom, and I'm the principal of Paddington Properties, the applicant. Thank you for your time and allowing us to speak here today. We've listened to your comments provided on June 14th at the council meeting, and our architects at Applin have acted swiftly and collaborated with staff to completely redesign the project. If I may share my screen.
Yes.
Can you see the screen? Can everybody see?
No, it's not coming up on our screen. There we go. Starting to come up. I'll let you know. There it is. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. This is the design that was previously submitted, the before, and here is the after. You'll see that we have completely taken a different approach based on the comments provided. The units on the top here are the west view of the duplex units on 206th Street. And then down below is the south view of the townhouse units, the first building. And a closer, different perspective of the duplex units here. So we have gone with, as you can see, a more traditional approach within the realm of other recently approved projects in the township. We feel this design complements the existing neighborhood while allowing for transition to the future development in Northeast Gordon, including the condo buildings that will be developed to the east of this project. Fundamental changes we've made include using gable roofs throughout, as well as adopting a more neutral and elegant color scheme, while allowing for the distinction of units within buildings by alternating materials and roof lines. We've provided distinction amongst buildings by alternating colors using light gray hardy board and then charcoal hardy board. We'll continue to work with staff to further refine the specifics of the project before final DP approval, but hope that these significant design modifications illustrate the concept that and would be more acceptable to council and allow us to proceed with third reading. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you very much. Don't see any questions from council for any clarification. I appreciate your presenting. Councilor Whitmarsh, question of clarification.
Yeah, just thanks for coming. And just a question, in these changes you've made compared to the first proposal, has there been any change in the size of the units themselves, or it looks like they now have a peaked roof as opposed to a flat roof? So has the units themselves changed, or is it just more of a cosmetic change on the outside to the structure?
Correct. The units have not changed. The floor plans remain the same, and sizes and elevations remain the same. It's strictly cosmetic and design of the exteriors that's changed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so with that, I see no further questions. I will now call the public hearing C1 is now closed. And there's a clerk's note that council may consider third reading of this application at the conclusion of this item's public hearing. So as this item is now closed, I would ask if there is...
I'll move that, Mayor Froese.
Councilor Whitmarsh moves it. Is there a seconder? I don't see hands. You'll have to put your hand up.
Yes, I will.
Councilor Davis, thank you. And Mr. Seacon, if you could stop sharing your screen, then I get to see everybody again when it comes. Great, thank you. So with that, any questions? Councilor Richter.
Yeah, I'm opposed to going into third reading tonight.
Okay, actually, I think I made a mistake. There's no discussion on this. We just have a vote. Sorry,
okay.
I'm ahead of myself. So I will just call the question on going to third reading. As everyone knows, it requires a 2/3 vote. So by show of hands, all those in favor and opposed? I have the hands opposed. I have Councilor Richter, Councilor Woodward, and Councilor Arneson opposed. So it does pass on the 2/3. So now we'll go into the motion. If someone could move third reading for rezoning application number 100217, official community plan amendment and development permit 101107, and bylaw 5710 and 5711. Could I have a motion?
I'll move it, Ferguson.
Councilor Ferguson moves it. Councilor Whitmarsh seconds it. Now discussion on the motion. Councilor Long.
Thanks, Your Worship. And perhaps I should have asked the proponent when he was up, because this is the one that we didn't care much for the roof lines. And so the pictures that are in our package and the pictures that were just presented at the public hearing, can maybe staff clarify then? So we're not going to be getting what's in the package. What they're proposing is on that one illustration that we saw.
Mr. Seffi? Or Mr. Richardson?
Thank you, Your
Your
Worship.
answer best.
Yeah, Your Worship, the proponent's amendments have not yet been incorporated in the council package in terms of the revisions that have been made. So I think I will just end my comments at that and see if Mr. Richardson has any additional comments. So if council was to, I guess, indicate its support for third reading, that would then be subject to incorporation of the revisions as described by Mr. Richardson and presented by Mr. Seacon.
So because it was presented at this public hearing, what you're saying is that if this carries tonight, then that is part of it, and that the staff would ensure that that comes back, and so council would have another chance to look at it at fourth reading when you take a look at the development permit. Is that correct?
Your Worship, it's Mr. Richardson here. That's correct. So
yes, thank you.
Standard practice is that, and as our system is set up concurrently, that the issuance of the development permit would be considered by council at time of final reading. So one option for council is, as you've indicated, as Councilor Long has indicated, the current package indicates the previously considered drawings. The proponent has amended those drawings as presented this evening. But one option for council would be to then direct staff to proceed with the amended drawings and further consider those on that general basis for finalization and presentation to council for issuance of the development permit at time of final reading. That would allow the land use matter to proceed and the design item to be concluded and have council's approval at final or consideration of approval, Your Worship.
So then an amendment to amend this to include the revised drawings have staff work with the proponent. Is that what you're suggesting? So I'll go through the speakers list and we'll come back to that.
Just before you,
Yeah,
let me
sure.
finish then. So in other words, that hasn't been moved yet, because I like the previous drawings much better
Okay,
than what I've seen tonight. Anyway, I guess we'll see what happens.
sure. Okay, I will go through the list. Councillor Richter and then Councillor Marsh.
Yeah, I'm still, I don't think there's been significant enough changes to the design made. And I'm not in favor of what's been presented tonight, nor was I in favor of what was presented at first and second. So if we wanted additional changes to the design, what would we do with that? Would we move referral back to staff to continue to work with the proponent to improve the designs?
We can amend the third reading to include staff continue to work with proponent based on the designs they showed us. That's one option, and that would come back at fourth reading. The development, and that's pertaining to the development permit, and that would come back to fourth reading.
Okay, so we can't defer third reading until there's been alternate designs made. That's not an option for us to consider.
I believe it would be, but we're really dealing with the development permit, so I would take that as deferring that. We can. The development permit doesn't get approved till fourth reading, so we get input now. So it's not like we're approving the development permit today. It's moving forward to fourth reading. But perhaps staff could help me out with this. Mrs. Seffi's mic is off.
That's correct, Your Worship. The hearing relates to the land use and density matter, and the public hearing similarly relates to land use and density. Council has the option of endorsing third reading, approving third reading, and directing staff to work with the applicant to make further amendments prior to council's consideration of the development permit. It would be beneficial if there was a bit more specificity to the additional amendments that council may wish to see, so that staff can take it as direction as to being on the right path approach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Whitmarsh?
Yeah, I like this project. I think there's an improvement from what we asked, and I like it better. It's more traditional look, but in the end, how things look is really up to each member of council. We all have different ideas, and none of us are designers. But I like it better. I think other things that I like about this project has no tandem parking, and I know we've struggled as a council on tandem parking. This has no tandem parking. This also has 5 trees to be removed with 163 to come in and replace them. So this is a significant enhancement to the tree canopy in this project as well. I think this is a good project. It meets most of the criteria that we tend to look for as a council, and so I see no reason why we would not support this proposal. So I'm supporting it today.
Great, thank you. Okay, I see Councillor Ferguson's hand up. Councillor Ferguson, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not one to jump to third reading and on a public hearing night, but seeing as that the applicant had gone through a number of steps to make improvements, I guess beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it is a significant improvement, and it does provide the necessary amenities, necessary zoning requirements for the township of Langley. I will be supporting it, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. So does council wish to make an amendment to on the development permit to consider the renderings that were brought before us, and to have staff work with the proponent prior to the development permit coming to fourth reading? If anybody wants to make that amendment, I saw a hand go up. Councillor Long.
I'll move it because I think we need to get it going along here. So
yeah.
So David, it'll come back to fourth.
On the amendment, Councillor Woodward. On the amendment, Councillor Woodward.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to clarify procedurally where you're at, Mr. Mayor, because I thought we would approve the rezoning and then consider the development permit at final. Are you looking for some indication that we support the development permit as it's been revised?
No, it's providing direction to staff to consider the joint renderings that we saw today, work with the proponent, come back to at at final to come back with the revised development permit.
Yeah, the problem with doing that is the problem with doing it that way is sort of as far as, clarify me if I'm procedurally incorrect, is it prevents me from voting in favor of the rezoning and voting against the development permit. Because you've added on an amendment about the development permit to the rezoning.
Okay.
Do I have that correct?
I've added on, because we're dealing with the development permit and the rezoning, so it's actually added on development permit.
I thought we didn't
This
actually
is just-
approve.
This is just the amendment right now what we're talking about, so.
Yeah,
We
I'm
wish
talking
this
about the
once-
amendment. I'm trying to get to the point of like, so we normally don't approve development permits until final adoption.
That's right, so we're not.
So now you've added an amendment about a development permit. So I don't support the amendment to the development permit, even if it's added on to the rezoning, but I still want to vote in favor of the rezoning.
Okay, fair enough.
So now you're forcing me to vote against the
No,
rezoning.
I'm not forcing you anything. This is an amendment we're talking about right now.
But you're amending a rezoning with direction about a development
I'm
permit?
amending a development permit. Sorry, you missed that. This is a development permit.
Maybe you can have the clerk clarify, because clearly you and I aren't communicating. Maybe you can have the clerk clarify.
I think we're communicating quite well, but we're just not understanding each
Yeah,
other.
it's.
Ms. Bauer, or if you're there, if you could maybe just read it out.
The amendment to the motion was to include the revised drawings in consideration of the development permit. It would, an understanding where Councillor Woodward is explaining, it wouldn't be, I don't want to say we could divide it because dividing an amendment doesn't work, but I understand that it is two different issues. That's quite correct.
Yep.
So I don't want to say.
So Ms. Bauer, would it be, if this amendment goes through, then we divide the rezoning to the development permit, is that correct? We could divide it. Right now, we're just amending the development.
At this point, I think that would be the easiest way to solve the issue.
And that's what I was thinking of doing with the.
I'll just vote against it all. It doesn't sound like it's going to matter.
All right, sounds good. On the amendment, Councillor Long.
Yeah, well, I just want to be clear, the recommendation in our package, even though the drawings, and I pointed out the drawings seem to be a little bit different, so you've kind of worked on that by instructing staff with this amendment to build those, work with the proponent, bring back the drawings, but it does talk about a development permit in there. So that nobody's forcing anybody to do anything. It's already in there. It says that council give first and second reading of the bylaws.
So just on the amendment.
Authorized issues. Yeah, so I think, I don't see any confusion here. This is.
So, yeah, just on the bylaw. Okay.
Yeah, so the amendment is positive.
Yeah, I'm not clear now on the amendment. I thought the amendment was that staff would continue working with the proponent to revise the drawings or to improve the drawings and bring it back as part of the development permit at fourth reading. But the way that it was read back by the clerk, it sounds like it's to include the revised drawings.
For consideration, to include the revised drawings for consideration and continue to work with the proponent.
Okay, well, I don't like the revised drawings, so I'm not going to support the amendment. Thanks.
Okay, so on the amendment, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? Okay, I've got Councillor Richter, Councillor Arneson, Councillor Woodward opposed. The amendment carries. So now I'll take a motion to divide the bylaws, the two bylaws, and then we'll deal with the development permit. So I got a motion to divide the two bylaws from the DP. Councillor Long, seconder. I have a seconder on the division. Councillor Kunst, discussion. All in favor of division and opposed? Councillor Woodward's opposed. Okay, so we'll start with the bylaws. They've been moved and seconded, so any discussion on the bylaws? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Woodward, Councillor Arneson, Councillor Richter. Thank you. Now the development permit is amended. Call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? Councillor Woodward, Councillor Arneson, Councillor Richter. Carries. Thank you. Now move on to C2. And C2 is rezoning application number 100598 and development permit application number 101141. Manor Lane Properties, Willowbrook Incorporated. Bylaw 5718, Bylaw 5719, and Bylaw 5720. Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, Worship. Is the screen visible, Worship?
Yes, it is. Thank you. Yes.
Excellent. So thank you, Your Worship. The subject land use contract discharge, rezoning, and development permit applications pertain to a proposed 6-story mixed-use building accommodating 133 rental apartment units, including 40 affordable units and 3,020 square feet of commercial space at 6350 197th Street. The 1-acre site is designated regional commercial in the Willowbrook Community Plan and is currently regulated by Land Use Contract 74. This air photo depicts the subject site located on the east side of 197th Street, south of 64th Avenue. Bylaw 5718 discharges Land Use Contract 74. Bylaw 5719 rezones the site to Comprehensive Development Zone 161, consistent with the Willowbrook Community Plan. Housing Agreement Bylaw 5720 secures rental tenancy for the 133 proposed units, with 40 of those units being affordable pursuant to the Township's Development Cost Charge Waiver for Affordable and Supportive Housing Bylaw. Next series of slides are the site plan indicating access from 197th Street, renderings, elevations, and the landscape plan is indicated in Development Permit 101141. Staff recommends support of Land Use Contract Discharge Bylaw 5718, Rezoning Bylaw 5719, and Housing Agreement Bylaw 5720, subject to 10 conditions and issuance of Development Permit 101141, subject to 6 conditions listed on page 32 of Council's agenda. Your Worship, a total of 608 notices were mailed out, 12 written submissions have been received, and there is 1 individual note on the speakers list.
All right, thank you. Okay, I will now ask for any presentation submissions from the public regarding C2. And there is someone on the speakers list. Could you please name who they are?
The first person on the speakers list is Lori Thane.
Okay, Ms. Thane, go ahead. And you'll have 5 minutes. Please identify yourself for the record and neighborhood that you live in.
Yeah, my name is Lori Thane. I live at 6359 198th Street, and I have done for 23 years. Mr. Mayor, councilors of the Township of Langley, my name is Lori Thane. I'm a semi-retired country singer, songwriter, and a member of the BC Country Music Hall of Fame. I live in my condo that I bought in 1998 on 198th Street, adjacent to the property being discussed this evening, which is 6350 197th Street. I'm here this evening to speak against Bylaw 5718, discharging Land Use Contract 74, and Bylaw 5719, rezoning the property to allow a 6-story rental property to be built. I can speak for the over 100 people from our building who signed a petition to stop this rezoning. Under the current zoning, only a building similar in height to ours can be built, and the land use cannot be modified until 2024. Just give you a look here, if I may share my screen. That is my view out of my back window, and I have enjoyed this for 23 years. The proposed building would be along this white fence line. It would just be a wall, and it would block my view. It would block all my evening sun and significantly reduce the enjoyment of my property on all the others who share my view. Therefore, I believe it's clear that interest in my property is affected by this proposal. I spoke with Chris Jarvie, a planner for the township, who is recommending this project. When I asked him if he would be recommending it if he lived in one of my neighborhood condo buildings, he gave me an answer that I loved. Apparently, the building is in alignment with the township growth plan. However, land use is set, and until 2024, unless council gives a developer an unfair head start at the expense and inconvenience of all the owners around the proposed site, needs to stay the same. I heard there was sympathy for the developer who could not move forward and was sitting on a property he could not use. Surely, Manor Lane understood the zoning when he bought the property. It seems like they want special consideration to start their money flow early. We residents would like nothing special, We would just like to see the council on our side protecting our investments and respecting and valuing us as established residents of Langley. We understand that there must be progress, but this is not progress, it is bullying. And the council, if the council grants this premature zoning favor to an out-of-town developer over the current residents, then we have voted unwisely. The developer has everything to gain and we have everything to lose. He makes his money, leaves us with the mess. We have to endure all the development noise, dust, debris. We have to have a non-community minded bank of renters and transient people next door to us. With the rising crime rates, the extra people are not going to help the situation. We've had our mail stolen 3 times in the last 3 months. Things are not going in the right direction. And you're also providing space for SkyTrain users, some who view the train as an accessory to their unlawful aspirations. I'm not saying that the developer should not be able to build this project if the township believes it is needed. Perhaps a new site should be purchased that won't adversely affect present and valued residents. Or perhaps the developer should be sensitive and respectful enough just to want to wait till 2024 to open his Christmas present. We are trying to live here, and many of us have lifetime investments in our properties. In considering what I have said here tonight, I would encourage council to either ask the developer to modify his plans to fit in with our neighborhood, or simply to wait until 2024 and respect that this is our home. They need to fit in and be sensitive to the people who live here. What is the rush? We need time to decide if we are staying or going. SkyTrain will not be finished until at least 2025. Legally, at this point, we have 3 years left in the current land use plan. Why not let us enjoy our investments? Is it not the council's job to support the residents of Langley, in this case, against one out-of-town developer and people who will be coming here as renters and not people like myself who have made their purchase in Langley Township? Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I've got some questions from council to clarify some items you said. Councilor Ferguson.
Oh, yeah. Mrs. Thane, thank you for coming. I did want to ask some clarification. Did you put the petition together yourself?
No, I didn't. Our council put the petition together.
Okay. The reason for that is it's got your name, Lori Thane. You've signed it. Doesn't say where you live, and doesn't indicate the council other than you're opposed to it. So, I mean, people don't have to put their exact address. Sometimes people put their name, or maybe they send an email and they say they're a neighbor or they live in the vicinity, or they'll give the street number, but not their unit number.
Okay, just questions.
And that gets that's more of an idea. So I just wondered if you were aware of that.
Absolutely not. And getting that green card in the mail threw us all into an absolute panic, and we were all scrambling to do something. And the council, since they were sitting in the lobby protecting our mailboxes because we'd been broken into again 1 week after our new mailboxes, and they were sitting there and they had access to the people. So they very quickly, very well intentioned, but very quickly presented a petition hoping to do some good, and perhaps they were not accurate in the way they presented it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for your submission. I just wanted to get clarification. Is it the height of the building that is the main concern, where the other buildings around it are 4 stories and this one is proposed to be a 6-story?
Well, that is one of the main concerns. One of the other concerns is that this is a rental property and there's affordable rental in there as well. So we're going to get a real mix of people. We only have 8 rentals in our unit. So we're not used to having, rental style people who are more transient and less committed right there in our neighborhood. But I have heard people say that I mean, if you recall the picture out the back of our property, which is absolutely a utopia for all of us, those people would be at least 2 stories above our 4th floor, and they would be 4 stories above me. Everybody looking down on our property and maybe paying too much attention to what goes on that property, and maybe getting a bit interested in exploring it. And so the height of the building, as you point out, is a major issue.
Okay. Now, you did mention that the afternoon sun
Yes.
on your unit would be blocked. Would it
The
be
evening sun.
evening sun? Would it be
Yes.
blocked if it was a 4-story building?
Partially, but it's not something that I would be excited about. But at least I would have some sun, and I wouldn't have this absolutely out of characteristic monstrosity of a building. If you look at the plans and you see the street view, it's like an elephant right there, right in the middle. It's a beautiful looking building, but it's very much out of character for our neighborhood. We have 3 condos like on 3 sides there. There are condos that were built about the same time, and those buildings are about the same height, and they all sort of fit in there as a set. This one would just be a towering monster.
Okay. And you referenced several times about 2024. Are you saying that you just want the parking lot to stay there until 2024? Or are you saying, like, when you said wait until 2024, like?
Well, the fact that he bought that property knowing the zoning and now he's stuck with it as a parking lot is really not our fault. But because he bought that property doesn't mean we all have to bend. There are about 300 people who have purchased in that area. And myself, I've been there 23 years and I love it there. And I don't miss my taxes, and I consider myself to be a good citizen, as the others do. But the fact that one out-of-town developer bought that property is not something we have to answer for.
Okay, so you're wanting it to basically remain a parking lot until 2024, and thinking
unless he wants to build something that is part of our community.
Okay.
That just doesn't fit in at all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, you're most welcome.
Thank you. Councilor Whitmarsh.
Yeah, thanks for coming today. I appreciate hearing your concerns. I wasn't sure where the 2024 came from again. If you could just sort of walk through how
in conversation with Chris Jarvie, he explained to me that it would not be legal to build anything taller than we have right now, according to the land use plan, which expires in 2024, and the township's forward expansion plans then would be considered in the changes that they make at that point. So until 2024, we should be able to enjoy our investments. And we're all in complete shock that this is going to open up and the sky will be the limit, apparently, after 2024. Does that make sense?
Yeah, your explanation makes sense. It's something that we'll probably have. I'd like to just also check with staff, because I've never heard of that date being tied to the property. So that's something we'll talk about. The other thing I just wanted to ask you is how do you know how many units are in your building, or how large your building is?
58 units in our building.
58 units. And what floor are you on?
I am on the first floor of the living space, which is built on a parking garage. So actually 2nd floor.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for coming today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you. There are no further questions from council, so thank you for your delegation. All right, I will now ask 3 times if there are any further submissions regarding C2 on the agenda. For a 2nd time, any submissions to the public regarding C2? And for a 3rd time, any submissions from the public regarding C2? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of C2 and ask the proponent if they wish to respond to concerns raised by the written submissions and also in the delegation.
Thank you, Mayor Froese. It's Peter Fassbender, and I'm the corporate ambassador for the BM Group. And the BM Group are the owners of Manor Lane and I think, unlike what was previously said, they are a Langley company. The Manns, Balraj Mann, and his son Milan are the two principals of the company. They live in Langley. They have done a number of developments throughout Langley Township and continue to do so. They've worked on this particular proposal for a number of years, and I think what's really important here is a couple of key points. Number one, the overall building height, because it is a flat roof, is exactly the same as the other condominiums that surround it on the three sides. So the building is actually no higher than any of the other buildings in the area. The other thing is that they've worked very hard to really develop the next generation of development in that area. As council knows, this particular proposal fits in with the official community plan. It also speaks to the housing requirement study that was done by the township, and that is why they are providing it as an entirely rental building. BM Group, Manor Lane Homes, will continue to own the facility. They have developed a not-for-profit organization which will be entering into a housing agreement where 30% of the units, in other words, 40 units, will be below market rent as determined by CMHC and BC Housing at the time that the building would be ready for occupancy. I think one of the other things that's really important, the development has integrated a lot of landscaping, which you saw on some of the previous slides. And I'm going to just share the screen and just walk through a few of the visuals very quickly. That's the front of the building. As you will can see, it is pretty close to the street, but the commercial is going to provide services and opportunities for the people living in the building and in the area. To the right, you'll see a green wall that is being built to mirror and to hide the parking entrance so that it will be a green wall, which again adds to the environment in the area. You saw where the location is, so I don't need to go over that. This is the interior courtyard. They're developing some public use areas for all of the residents in the building. And there are a number of 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, and studio units in the building. And so there will be a mix of people. It is not intended in the rental component or the affordable housing component to be social housing. These are people that the housing study has clearly shown need housing in the township of Langley. And indeed, because of its proximity, about 400 meters for the future SkyTrain, and to the current rapid bus routes, it will be walkable for the people who live there to get around the community and the region. The form and design is really a reflection of the kinds of design that we're seeing throughout the township, and it has been done to do that. Overall, I want to really reinforce this developer is committed to the community. They will continue to own the building. They will not build it and then walk away. They're committed to the community. They're part of the community. Mr. Balraj Mann is a member of the Hospital Foundation, and he has done a lot of charitable work in the community as well. And I think the members of council know this organization and the principles behind it very well. Thank you very much for your opportunity.
Thank you. I've got a couple questions from council. Councilor Richter.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, you indicated at the beginning of your presentation that even though this is a 6-story building, it won't be any higher than the 4-story buildings around it. How is that physically possible? Like, how are you going to achieve that?
Well, it's physically possible, as I mentioned, because of the flat roof. A roof, I should say, as opposed to the peaked roofs that the other buildings have. So if you measure it from street level to the top of the peaks, or you measure it from street level to the top of the flat roof, they are exactly the same height.
Okay, so people who are living on the 6th floor in that building, will they be looking down into the apartments of the people who are living on the second or third or fourth floors of the surrounding buildings?
The way the building has been designed, as you saw in the layout, most of the adjacent properties will be on the short end or the long end of the building. So there will be minimal views from this building to others. But as you know, whenever you build within a densified area, you do have some. But again, it's been designed to minimize that, and especially on the balconies and those other features.
So they still will be able to look down on the surrounding buildings?
Absolutely. You can't avoid that from all of the units, but it will be minimal when you look at the overall form and massing of the building.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Whitmarsh.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions I wanted to ask. First of all, when I look at the the diagram of where it's located, it looks like that on 3 sides is currently a parking lot, and then there looks like a building across 197th Street. I'm just maybe trying to get a sense of how it's situated, because the delegation that spoke earlier talked about it sort of looked like it was going to be right up against a fence of a green space. But when I look at the diagram, it doesn't look like that. So I'm wondering if you could just speak to how it fits within the parking lot and then 197th Street and how close it might actually be to other buildings.
Well, perhaps what I can do, we actually are conforming with all of the setback requirements of the township. Actually, some of them are better than in other areas, but perhaps I could ask Mr. Mayor, if you wouldn't mind, the architect to explain exactly the configuration of the building on the site.
Certainly. Thank you. So that was a concern raised. Thank you.
Just looking to see if she's still there.
Yes, yeah, hi everyone. This is Megan here from DF Architecture. I'm here with the principal architect, Jesse Aurora. So I don't have a screen to share ready. So if Milan and Peter, yeah, if you can go to the second slide. Yes, thank you. So the building is a C-shaped building, and we have the commercial facing 197, and then the C shape, like the courtyard, is facing towards south. And then we have, let me just pull out the exact setbacks in front of me. So we have 3 meter setback from 197, and then we have 7.5 meter setback from all the 3 adjacent properties. That is a building setback. On the upper floors, that setback might be very minimal, reduced to 6.5 meter. That only by the projection of few balconies, not actually the livable space. Yeah, so basically we're keeping the 7.5 meter setback where we have the 3 properties, and then along 197, 3 meters.
Okay, that's helpful. So on the sides that sort of border up against some of the other buildings, is there, in that setback, is there trees that'll be planted or a hedge?
Yes.
Or what kind
Yes.
of to sort of buffer the other buildings?
Yes, exactly. If you guys have the landscape plan in front of you, we are having a belt. Yeah, that slide actually. Exactly. So we are having a belt of the trees all on 3 sides. And after that, we have the walkway, the common walkway, which access to each individual patio. So there will be a belt surrounding in that 7.5 meter setback from the other properties to 3 sides.
Okay, great. Thank you. I had one other question that might go back to, I'm not sure if it's Mr. Fassbender or who else, but the question I had was just around the definition that you're using for affordable housing. It looks like 30% is affordable. How is that being defined with this building?
As I mentioned, we have worked with township lawyers to develop a housing agreement which will be signed. It will be 30% of the units at 10% under market value. The challenge is today, because of course the building will take a few years to be built, what market rates will be at the time. but they will be determined by the CMHC and BC housing criteria that they use to determine the market rents in the township of Langley, specific to the township. And then the units would be 10% below that. And that would be 40 of the units.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Councilor Woodward?
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to clarify the submission regarding these claims about the height of the building, because you definitely confused me a little bit. If I could maybe just take time, direct you to page 47 of the staff report. I'm seeing the streetscape plan there that, to me, clearly shows the building to be about 3 stories higher than the adjacent building along 64. So I wanted to maybe give you a chance to clarify that, maybe what you mean by the same height.
Yes, what we were using, and the architect could speak to this more, but when they did the measurements, as you know, from street level to the top of the roof, it's compared to the other condominiums in the area, which have peak roofs. So if you took it from the top of the peaks of the buildings around it, there are other lower buildings in the area, but the specific condominiums that are adjacent to this development, when you measure from streetscape to the top of the peaks compared to streetscape to the top of the building, those actual heights are exactly the same.
Okay, maybe it would be helpful for you to look at the streetscape plan on that page 47, because the one there along 197 definitely seems to be about 3 stories lower. So I just wanted to highlight that for council, and then maybe that can be clarified by the architect. I'm not sure if you're saying they're the exact same height, and I look at the to-scale streetscape plan and they're not showing me that. So I'll just give you a chance to clarify, but if that's good, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan, could you answer that?
Yeah, sure. So we do not have the exact, these are just like Google images. We do not have the exact height of the other project, but as a general rule of thumb in architecture, all the peak roof developments are kind of more dominating, and they're at least 1 story higher. So even if might not be matching as per like number to number as per the height, it won't be it won't be a comparison of 6 story to 4 story when you're looking from the eye view. It will be more likely a comparison of 5 story to 4 story. So basically 1 level difference. And I think the more concern about the height was the way of overlooking. Overlooking of development will happen regardless, unless we're gonna match the 2nd floor that the resident were speaking. So unless we match the 2nd floor, anything built on that property, even if it's 4 story, they will be still overlooking the 2nd story courtyard.
Thank you. Councilor Richter?
Yes, just a couple of follow-up questions, if I may, Mr. Mayor. The first one is, have any shade studies been done by the proponent that would address the potential impact of lighting on neighboring properties?
Yes, the architect and the proponent BM Group and Manor Lane Homes did shading studies, which were submitted as part of the submission to township staff over the development of the proposal.
Okay. And the second question, as you're going to have flat roofs in there, has any thought been given to making that flat roof solar panel ready?
At this stage, it hasn't. However, what they have done, as you see in the drawings on the 2nd floor, there is landscaping that's been integrated in that setback as well to help the frontscape of the building. And around the sides, the landscaping and the green wall have all been incorporated to make maximum benefit to the environment as part of the proposal.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. I don't see any other questions. So with that, I'll close public hearing C2. And as there has been some discussion and 12 written submissions, I'm not sure if council wishes to proceed to 3rd reading, if there is someone who wishes to move it. Otherwise, we'll take it to the next meeting. Okay, I don't see anything, so I'm gonna ask for a motion to terminate the public hearing.
Termination.
Councilor
Second.
Davis moves termination, second by Councilor Long. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Public hearing is now terminated. Thank you very much. So note to staff, will reconvene back into closed meeting. And what do you need, 5 minutes or so, Ms. Bauer?
5 minutes would be just great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So 7:58.